Anyone who's played the original Baldur's Gate series, as well as Baldur's Gate 3 Early Access, will know that both have cleric companions, and more importantly, cleric companions that worship the Goddess Shar. I do not believe this to be a coincidence, as most likely, you do not either. What could be the reason for this? And what do Viconia and Shadowheart have in common? We'll get to that in time, but I think it's pertinent to first discuss who Shar is and what she wants. What is the nature of the Goddess Shar? Shar is different from many deities for a number of reasons, but the most important one is that she is the first, or rather tied for being the first of all deities in realm space. Gods that are first are usually fairly unique, and above all primordial in what they represent and want, and Shar is no exception to this, perhaps more so than any other deity. Shar's existence could well be described as a paradox in itself, as she reflects and represents the void and oblivion, the nothingness that had existed prior to the creation of realm space, and yet she exists, with the memory of a void that she herself did not exist in, yet longs for above all other things. It is for this reason that Shar, more than anything else, personifies loss. Yes, she is the goddess of darkness and night, but she is the goddess of darkness and night precisely because of the loss that darkness and night represent. Driven by loss, Shar is immensely evil, pitiless, envious, hateful, and malicious. Her resentment of existence itself drives her to do unspeakable things. A deity such as Bane simply wishes to rule over all creation, but a deity such as Shar wants nothing less than for creation to cease to be. Murder, tyranny, disease, pain, and death, all these portfolios seem terrifying on their face, but pale in comparison to the creature that is Shar, because she is willing to do anything and everything in order to achieve her goals. Shar's twin and eternal enemy is Selûne, as they emerged as the first goddesses, and Selûne sought to create and nurture, effectively doing the exact opposite of what Shar desired, and thus their mutual enmity was brought about by their very nature, not simply due to events or poor interactions, which is to say that their bad blood is in their blood, so to speak. Shar also created the Shadowfell, as well as the Shadow Weave as a counter to Mystra's Weave, which serves as an alternative to spellcasters to draw upon, in large measure to spite and mock Mystra. In short, Shar hates everything, simply because it exists, and has only one long-term goal, the annihilation of existence itself. And all of this is important to remember, because it reminds us of what Shar's intentions are. She is a powerful goddess with many worshippers, but who often presents herself in a matronly manner as a protective mother figure to her charges. But it's all an act, a grand deception, purporting to be a healer and caretaker to her worshippers, someone who aids them with the pain of loss and grief. The reality is that she seeks to nurture that grief and loss, to transmute it into a festering wound that never ceases to be, and to inflict suffering upon her worshippers, and makes it such that they accept it as normal, without any prospect of hope or escape. She nurses spite, resentment, regret, and vengeance in her worshippers, all under the guise of being a caring mother, who, unbeknownst to her children, manipulates her offspring and seeks to destroy them. They are, after all, only tools, as is everything else in existence, serving her ultimate goal of achieving oblivion. Where then do characters such as Viconia and Shadowheart fit in here? Viconia may or may not be familiar to you, and if not, then I fear there'll be spoilers concerning her history and background, if only because I think the connection between Shar, Viconia, and Shadowheart is fairly relevant. Viconia is a very important companion in Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, and Throne of Baal. Viconia DeVir, a drow, began her life in typical drow fashion in the Underdark city called Menzoberranzan, a city you might know from another character, whose name I won't mention right now, training to become a priestess of Loth. At some point in time, Loth demanded that Viconia sacrifice an infant in her honor, in ritual fashion, which she refused. Her mother, matron of House DeVir, feared losing the favor of Loth, and so demanded that Viconia prostrate herself before the goddess, which Viconia refused to do. Furious, the mother attempted to have Viconia taken away, and have her sacrificed to the Spider Queen, but was stopped by her brother Valus, who was a powerful wizard, who slew their mother, earning the enmity of the Spider Queen, and was soon after captured and turned into a Dryder, a half-drow, half-spider monster, as a punishment for his perfidy. Of course, Viconia lost all her spells in connection to Loth, and fled to the surface, and somehow, though we are not told in detail, came to embrace the worship of Shar, and became a cleric of that goddess. Viconia did not have it easy on the surface, and was chased and hounded by elves and goblins, until, as if by fate, she was rescued by a Kalashite caravan, who in fact only rescued her to be used as a concubine. This backfired, and Viconia was able to manipulate the leader of the caravan such that he did her bidding, until one day his heart gave way, and she was accused of murdering him. After this incident, she spent her every waking hour hooded on the surface, so that none would recognize her for being drow, all the while constantly looking over her back for Lolth's vengeance. She ended up in Baragust, a town in the western heartlands of Faerun, and neighbor to a man called Roran, who, despite pretensions of friendship, tortured and attempted to murder her upon finding out she was drow. Narrowly escaping, she killed him, and eventually encountered the infamous Baalspawn, the star of the original Baldur's Gate series. Viconia's past actions, as well as the interactions the PC can have with her in Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, as well as Throne of Baal, show that she has in some sense a conscience, both in the face of Lolth and her demands upon Viconia, as well as in light of her experience on the surface. In fact, with the right dialogue choices and interactions, a PC who is romantically involved with her can shift her alignment from neutral evil to true neutral. What about Shadowheart? Well, rather obviously, we are stuck in early access, and thus know next to nothing about her past or history. But there are several dialogues where Shadowheart is a bit more forthcoming about her past than she otherwise would be, provided you make the right decisions in terms of her approval. Shadowheart regards the Church of Shar as family, and someone that took her in when others rejected her, and Shadowheart rather actively expresses her hatred towards the goddess Selûne, but spouts it as if it were just political religious propaganda she had heard from the Church of Shar. It's not entirely clear what, if any, similarities exist between Viconia and Shadowheart, or indeed if these similarities unite them, but they are united in their worship of Shar, and I don't think this is a coincidence. Though we hardly know all the details about Shadowheart, it is heavily implied that she was at least in part rejected by people in her past. Viconia was rejected to the point where she was going to be ritually sacrificed to Lolth by her drow family, and it is at this juncture that the Goddess Shar comes in, the loving and soothing mother who promises them relief from their past and pain, but instead pours salt into their wounds, stoking their resentment and bitterness about their lives, whilst presenting herself as benevolent and helpful. And this is simply how Shar operates. She takes advantage of the emotionally wounded and the weak, and those consumed by bitterness, and fans the flames, causing even more pain, which she delights in, all the while pretending to be a benefactor. And yet neither Viconia nor Shadowheart are inherently evil. I'll make that bold claim. No, they are not good people in a traditional sense either, but neither are they what one might typically associate with conventional evil. It seems entirely possible to my mind, just as the Baalspawn was able to at least partially turn Viconia away from her path of darkness, that with the right dialogue and choices, Shadowheart will be made aware of the fact that she has been manipulated and possibly abused by Shar. The fact that her memories have at least been partially erased is an indication of that. Whether as an origin character or a companion, the revelation of the truth of Shar's perverse evil will be a moment of great interest, and possibly a moment to savor, as perhaps Selûne herself will pierce the darkness and shed light upon Shadowheart's benighted soul. Or, much as with Viconia, Shadowheart can be further plunged into the darkness that is Shar, and never return to the light. As always, thank you for tuning in. Do leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, and I will check you out later. Thanks for watching. Take care.